Murphy is back with us. David, how are you, man? I feel like I don't get to see you enough.
Hey, I'm doing well. Spring training's right around the corner here.
Yeah.
Baseball starts 10 days.
Yeah, I know you're a big baseball guy, and so how did you feel about the Seahawks, though? I mean, you're still a football guy too, aren't you?
Well, I like good football.
Yeah.
I was rooting for the 49ers, though.
Oh, God. Thanks, David.
Sorry.
All of a sudden, I feel like I see you just way too often. David Murphy joins us. He's the Director of Operations at Credit Insider Club. David, so besides the 49ers, I know you're a Giants fan. There are some teams that are doing really well, and you can see it on the field every time you maybe watch the teams. With your credit, there's a lot that kind of rests behind the curtain that maybe people don't completely understand, and it's tougher to know if you have good credit maybe than if you have a good team that you're watching.
First off, you got to know what type of team you have, okay? A lot of people don't know what's on their credit reports, period. Mm-hmm. And they need to pull up their credit reports at least once or twice a year, especially in the day and age now of identity theft. You need to know if anyone's tampering with your credit report, if there's inquiries you don't recognize. Easiest way, for free, annualcreditreport.com. Mm-hmm. And you can get one free copy of each of the three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, once a year. Otherwise, you can pay for it. You can go to each of the bureaus and download for $8, $11, and get a copy of your credit report.
Mm-hmm. So when you start looking at your credit, I mean, in some ways, and I understand credit because just being in the mortgage business, it's part of our gig. But in some ways, even once you download that credit report and you look at it, it still doesn't exactly tell you, it doesn't maybe show you how to read it. It can still be confusing to some people.
Lots of people do not recognize how to read a credit report. It's a foreign language to them. So you need to be able to look at the credit report and identify who your creditors are and what the rating is. Do you pay as agreed? Is there a late pay? Just remember, the credit report goes from 7 years back. So you're looking at February 2006 to the present, 2013. So if you miss a payment and you have a 30-day late on your credit report this month, it's going to continue to sit there until February 2020.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. That's why it is crucial that you stay on top of things. So one of the first things you do is you take a look at your credit report and identify who reports on you. Mm-hmm. You have a simple way to be able to prioritize your bill paying. Whoever shows up on the credit report, they get paid first.
Are there, with all the different types of credit, I guess the different types of accounts, different ways people are trying to, in some ways, dupe people into credit, or they did more in the past than they are now. Are there different laws that are being passed? I mean, or are there laws that people should be aware of?
Well, the one law that everyone should be aware of is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which was enacted into legislation in 1971. They did do an amendment to it in the 90s, but that was for the credit bureaus to respond back to the consumer if they were disputing information. Supposedly, it's 30 to 45 days. You can dispute the information. You'll get an updated version of your credit report in your mailbox within 30 to 45 days. In the old days, prior to the amendment in the 90s, the credit bureaus would say, we will get back to you within a reasonable period of time. Mm-hmm. Well, what's reasonable to them as compared to what's reasonable to the consumer are two different things.
Yeah, right.
Generally, it's 30 to 45 days. But in the last several months, I have seen it taking 60-plus days. Okay? And that's a new trend.
So what do they do during that amount of time? Because I know in a lot of industries, whether it's mortgage or real estate, there's a lot of hurry up and wait. This kind of seems like it's the same thing.
Well, it is the same thing. This is the way it works. Dispute goes into the mail from the consumer to the credit bureaus. Credit bureaus then have 5 days to send out to the furnisher or the creditor. And the creditor then has 30 days to respond back to the consumer or back to the credit bureau, and then credit bureau sends an updated to the consumer. What really happens is everything goes through this big computer called the OCR, Optical Character Recognition. If they recognize the same type that you had sent in a letter previously, a couple months back, then it shoots out and you're going to go to one spot in the bureau. As compared to if you handwritten something, it'll go to opened by a real person.
Really?
And they may, in turn, do the investigation. Now, if a dispute goes out and you get a response within 10 days, they're lying to you. It didn't get processed. There's no way that something can be processed in that period of time. That's why it generally takes 30 to 45 days to go through the process.
But why are credit companies, I mean, you think of credit companies as like this purveyor of goodness, right? Like we know who should be able to borrow money and who shouldn't. How are they allowed to lie, or as you say, just not process something? They don't accept emails, as far as I know. You have to mail everything.
Well, you can do it emails, but what they don't tell you is that you allow them an extra 17 days for the process.
If you email them.
That's correct.
How is that efficient?
Well, hey, it's about dollars and data, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
It's cost effective. So for each negative item that is disputed on the credit report, it's going to cost the credit bureaus $41 manpower. All right?
Mm-hmm.
The average American who has negative information on their credit reports, they have about 4 to 7 negative items. Okay? 4 to 7 negative items times $41 times 12 months times 60,000 disputes per month.
It's expensive.
Millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So Experian, for example, will send out a form letter saying that they're not going to do this, or they think that the dispute was suspicious. And 50% of the Americans out there who get this letter are going to give up, period.
Is that the game?
That is the game, because it doesn't cost them more money to do research if half the people are going to give up.
Because everybody gets this notion right now. I'm going to write the letter, I'm going to send it off, and then life happens, and then they never do anything again.
Well, I think this 60 Minutes interview that was on Sunday may just be the trigger to change some things here, because you saw Steve Kroft there banging his head against the wall trying to talk to a live person. The person he wound up talking to was somebody in Chile or India where they outsource the disputes. These people go through 90 disputes a day, and then they put codes for each of the items that, not mine, never late, inaccurate information. So they code it out, and then they send it to the furnisher, whoever the creditor is. They, in turn, will supposedly verify the information to determine if it's inaccurate, obsolete, or non-verifiable. If they determine that it's verifiable, current, and accurate information, it's not going to be upgraded. They're going to say, we verified this information.
So you talk about outsourcing to save costs. Do the credit bureaus make a lot of money? I mean, are they a wealthy company?
They are huge. They employ many, many lobbyists, greasing palms in Washington, D.C. They don't make their money, big money, okay? Felix Hernandez chump change.
Sure.
They don't make it by selling you a credit report. Certainly when you go on the internet and you type up Equifax, you're going to get hit by their monitoring service, and they're trying to sell you product. They make money by selling your demographics to other creditors who are trying to sell you on credit cards. Okay, so American Express is doing a gold card mail out. They want to know.
I think I get that literally. If you're talking about one specifically, I think I get an American Express business card sent to me like once a week.
There you go. Blonde hair, blue eyes, lives in Seattle between the ages of 20 and 20 and 70. You fit the demographic range of what they're looking for. They plug in that demographic range into the computer and it outshoots millions of names. That's where they make
the
their
big money is.
Because your name's worth a dime.
David, we have to go to break in just a minute, but I have a quick question for you. Again, we're here with David Murphy, Director of Operations with Credit Insider Club. Do you trust the credit bureaus personally?
Trust no one.
And with that, I love it, David. Thanks so much for joining us. Stick around for a few minutes. We'll get some more of everybody's opinions in just a few. I'll be right back. You're listening to Brashenomics.